So a new day in Satisfactory, and I wanted to make a little bit of a different video compared to some of my other ones. In this video, I want to talk about where is actually the best place to build your new base in this game. This map is pretty big, so you have a lot of different options on where you can build your base, but which one is the best? Because we might need to do this with the new update coming out soon, or if you're new to this game, you might want to know where's the best place to start, and that's what we're going to try to figure out today. So before we get too far, let's go over the different biomes we have so we can show you guys the different options available to you when you want to decide on what to build. First, we have the Greenlands. I call this the Greenlands because it's green and very open. I feel like this is the most green area on the entire map, so I really feel like this makes the most sense, which is why I'm calling it Greenland. So Greenlands is actually going to be at the south side of your map, and actually is one of the starting areas you can choose from the main menu to start, and this is actually one of my favorite areas to build, and I'll go over why later after we get done going over all the biomes. So one of the areas in the middle of the map is actually something I call redwood, mainly because we have a lot of pink and red around, so I just call it redwood because of all the trees. So this area, in my opinion, is going to be a little bit harder to build, but we'll go into some of that later when we can go into the different options we have for base building. But here's one of the other biomes that you can choose from. This red biome is actually going to be kind of in the middle of the map, and it's going to be centralized around a lot of the other ores that you might need, so it is something to consider. It is here in the middle, as you can see, and it's very much centralized, so anything you want to get around the map, you should be able to do so easily. So currently at the north side of the map, I like to call this the Rocky Mountains, and I do that because it just looks like a lot of rocks that we have here. And this is one of those areas where you are going to have a lot of the more advanced ores in this area, including your oil and a lot of the other stuff that you might need for the more advanced stuff. But I call this the Rocky Mountains because it's kind of like desert, but then just a lot of rock. And you can also recognize this by the blue trees here that it does have around it. Over on the far left of the map, actually by the Rockies and almost by our Greenlands, I call this the Hawaiian Islands because we have a lot of different islands right here, and there's not too many areas where we actually have a lot of those, so I call this area Hawaii. And here you're going to find oil and a lot of other different ores that also have some of the more advanced stuff. This area can be really good for building because it has a lot of different open space for you to choose from, but there's also some downsides to it as well, which we will get into later. And again, this is on the far left side of the map. Next to the redwood biome, we actually have a couple different biomes here. We have the white trees, but we also have the jungle, which is what I call this because we have very tall trees, a lot of shrubbery. So I like to call this the jungle area. And we also have another desert biome, or a continuation of the Rocky Mountain biome, into this area over here. And so this area, again, is going to be a very centralized. It's going to help you get to all the different stuff you need, but there are a lot of different elevation changes which can affect your base building, so be aware of that. Over on the far right side of the map, I actually call this Balloon June, and that's mainly because there's a lot of these like different looking balloon things, so I'd like to call these like balloons because I think it looks pretty funny, or sperm. You know, I would go with balloons. I think that's more appropriate. But there's also a biome that I like to call the swamp, and because it really does look like a swamp to where you just have water everywhere with tiny little parts coming up above, so I call this the swamp area, which I think really fits. This area is going to be okay to build because it's pretty flat, but you also have a lot of trees in the way that you would have to knock down. But be aware that these giant balloons you cannot get rid of. They are part of the biome and something that you have to keep here. So just be aware of that when you choose this area. So at the top right of the map, we have this other area which is almost like a desert, but also like black rock. So I usually call this black rock when I come over, just because it kind of is different looking rocks compared to anywhere else on this map. So I like to call this black rock because I think it sticks out pretty well. This area, again, very open as you can see, but you might be a little bit farther away from some different ores, so you have to be aware of that when you're choosing your base, and if you want to use this location, be aware of that. Okay, so we just went over all the different biomes that this world has to offer. Now, granted, we didn't cover every single little part of this map. Some of those will fall in between like the gray areas between those biomes, but you should get the idea of what this map looks like and the different options you have now. The first base design that you can choose is actually a horizontal base is what I call it, because you don't use as much vertical space, but more horizontal space. So you need a bigger flat area to do so, like I have with this base here, because we take up so much space on the horizontal front that we want to make sure we have enough space to expand and still add on without hitting anything. So the next type of base that you do have available to you to build is more of a vertical style base. The advantage of a vertical style base is the fact that you don't need as big of a footprint with where you need to build. The disadvantage is it can be a little bit harder to expand later on, which is one of the downsides to it, and you can also get landlocked since you are building in a more tighter area. Okay, so now that you've decided what type of base you want to build, the next thing to try to figure out is where do you want to put your base and in what biome. Choosing this is so important because you want to make sure you actually have the correct area to choose from what you want. So the next thing you have to decide is what biome do you want to build in. We just went over all the biomes for the most part, and now it's the time, after figuring out what type of base you want to build, is now what biome do we want to build it in. This is a hugely important decision, and you need to figure out what you want to focus on the most. Each biome has their advantages and disadvantages to them. Like the current spot that I'm at now, I did a horizontal base, which is why I chose the Greenlands, because it's a little bit more flat. I have a lot more horizontal space. That's why I chose this location. The disadvantage to this area is all the more advanced ores like your sulfur, your uranium. I have to import all the way over here and go all the way around the map with my train to get those ores just to bring them back because I'm farther away from those ores. The Greenlands are going to have your basic ores like your iron, copper, and limestone. Other than that, you have to go a little bit farther to get the more advanced ones that you need later on, but you can import those. I'm using more resources to get the train all the way around the map and back with those resources. So every biome, like I was mentioning, is going to have their advantages and disadvantages to them. One of the other things you need to account for when you're trying to figure out where you want to put your base is be aware that you will need to expand your base for future expansions as you progress in this game. You don't want to start off thinking you're okay just to find out, oh, I need to expand my base even more to add more production items, because this game's going to keep growing, but also your needs as you grow might need, you might need more resources here than what you needed before. So you need to allow for future expansion. So make sure you have the room to do that. That's very, very important because you're going to start off very small in this game, but then you're going to build up your base. You want to do this one step at a time. So make sure you account for that fully. That way, when it does come, you are ready and prepared for it. So there is a third option for base building that you can choose. Now, I've never done this one personally. I like the idea of it, but I also like my current base design as it is as well. But this other option is, instead of having everything be in one big base, you can actually have smaller individual bases around the map serving different purposes. So this base over here could be for making iron and collecting it. All the iron stuff goes into that building to be made, and it has all the equipment you need in there to make that stuff, like your iron rods and plates. But then you can have another building on the other side of the map, maybe making copper or uranium, and then you can bring all those together with a train or trucks into a main facility that you want to be at the most. So after all those things are made, you bring all those into a certain facility for assembly or giving it to the space station. So you have a lot of different options, and you just need to figure out ahead of time which ones you want to go with. This game is very big and you have a lot of different options, but you need to make sure you're making the right decisions from the start. Thank you for watching, guys. It is greatly appreciated. Let me know what you guys think about base building in this video. Does it actually help you? Did it not help you? Let me know what I can improve on. That way I can make better videos for you guys. And what is your favorite biome to build in? Mine is the Greenlands, like I mentioned earlier. I like building horizontal bases. That's why I like the Greenlands, but I want to know what you guys like doing as well. I will talk to you guys later, and thank you very much for watching. It is greatly appreciated as always, and see you guys soon for the next video. Bye bye.